We never intended black people to be anything other than slaves. These are words of a white person. I think he is representing a system. Let's watch this.
We never intended them to be anything other than a slave. But they began to grow in number and in power, and eventually they fought their way to some freedom. So we became even more cruel, and to keep our black Americans down, we lynched, but yet they rose. So then we used the welfare system, the criminal justice system, to keep them down, to contain them, to destroy them, but yet they rose and they're rising. Then we built prisons and jails to hold them. Yet they rose. And so now we are doing exactly what the Pharaoh did at the end, sending out a decree, kill them. So until we admit that when we wrote this Constitution that all men are created equal, that we never intended to include our black brothers and sisters, our nation may end up facing exactly what the Egyptians faced when they refused to let God's people go. So I'm going to say this to my white fellow Americans, that the bloodshed that is on its way is not on the hands of our fellow black Americans, but is on our hands. We are the ones that are refusing to let God's people go. We are the ones that are refusing to acknowledge that we do not value our black brothers and sisters as equal individuals or equal Americans as us white men. And to my black brothers and sisters, the racial issues, as I've said, have been there from the very foundation, but why do we see it more? Because there's a shifting. See, us white men have been at the head since the foundation. But we've had a black president. And you know, we've done everything in our power to keep him from really changing things. Now we have another minority rising to the top, a white female. What does that say? Those of us who are white men who have been at the head are now starting to see and fear that we are going to become the tail. And we know what we've done to you. And so now we're fearful that you're going to do to us what we have done to you. But I will say this. I've lived in a black community for 23 years. I've never been treated the way that this country has treated my black Americans. So I call out my white Americans to say we better heed, repent, acknowledge, and change. Because if we don't, I just want to again say this. The bloodshed that we...
Now, when a white man finally spoke these words, not with hate but with honesty, he is just exposing the very soul of America. He said the quiet part out loud. He confessed what generations of our ancestors already knew. He confessed what generations of black Americans' ancestors already knew, of African ancestors already knew. Black people were never meant to be free in the system.
White racism created these black ghettos, as we said it then, and it's white racism which sustains them. We're not talking about where one white person hates black people. We're talking about a system where you live in an all-white neighborhood. You go into a building, an office, where all you see is white people. And you don't think anything's strange about that. That's what we're talking about. And we thought that was important for young black people particularly. You're not crazy. There is systemic racism in this country.
Grand Rising kings and queens from Africa and across the ocean, welcome back to my YouTube commentary. Peace, love, and divine power to every melanated soul listening to me right now. I think of you and I thank you so much for supporting me. Now, the white man we saw on the video on the first place didn't just speak his mind. He spoke the mind of a nation. The nation that was built of a pain of black people. And that's what I'm going to talk about on this video. Remember that my captions are on English and Swahili. So if you want to know a little bit of Swahili, just look at the English part And at the Swahili part, we learn together. As we are trying to expose everything and talk about history and Pan-Africanism, again, I'm teaching you Swahili. Now, let's start here. First, let's watch these clips here. After watching these clips, we come back and we talk more, as I do always. Of course, I have a lot to say to you.
As white people, is our deepest fear that we are inadequate? Or is our deepest fear that Black excellence is powerful beyond measure? It is their light, not their darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who are they to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are they not to be? Look honestly, and you will see how they demonstrate love as a reflection of our unwarranted hate. Our playing God does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about positioning ourselves and controlling the narrative so that Black and brown folks feel insecure around us. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to manifest the glory of the Spirit that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in all of us, no matter what your skin tone is. And as we let our own light shine, by atoning for and repairing the harm of our ways, as we learn to serve and see the true greatness of Aboriginal and Indigenous cultures and human beings around us, we unconsciously give white people around the planet the permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. From this point, we can build a new world that is connected to the planet and each other. Together, humanity is achievable.
This country intentionally has used the criminal law system to oppress and control Black people.
For sure.
So now we know that nobody's coming to save us. And we've known that. And we know that neither party, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, has even included us in the conversations while these parties are running and vying for those political seats. So your experience, you had the same experience. You know what it's like to be on a prison bunk. You know what it's like to see the separation of mothers from their children. You know that incarceration only causes further harm. We know that drug cases were intentionally, and drug sentencing was intentionally made harsh and with inequities that are inexplicable, meaning, you know, the differential between crack and powder cocaine, where there was
the 1 to 100.
absolutely, even when they closed it down, they didn't close it all the way. To this day, it's still
My
a
lawyer
disparity.
still said, I wish you got caught with coke and not crack. I was like, but it's less coke in the crack, so I don't understand.
I got something to say. Here goes. ICE is doing the same thing to Latinos that the government did in Tulsa and to Black communities all over the United States. Disrupt the accumulation of wealth by people of color. And that's a commentary on the fragility of white supremacy more than anything else. Because success in those communities where they have inferior resources doesn't just mean a transfer of wealth. It means that white people are definitely not better than Blacks and Latinos, even when the odds are stacked in our favor. Gumbo is better than bisque, ribs are better than prime rib, liver and onions is better than foie gras, and chicharrones are better than braised pork belly. More with less. And when those communities, Black or brown, do more with less, white supremacists must step in and disrupt that progress. The perception of superiority must be upheld. After all, the perception is the only part that's ever been real anyway. The good news is that we also aren't inferior. White Americans could have equally kick-ass culture as people of color. We've just got to stop being assholes to everyone else and maybe have a little damn humility. And you personally may not be the one who put people of color down. You may not even be the person who kicked them when they were down. And you may not be the one using your boot to keep them down. But if you can see it happening and you refuse to help or even acknowledge that it's happening, baby, you're part of that. Apathy is oppression.
The only reason that white people in the United States or anywhere we are, in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever we are the colonizers. We are the colonizers, and we live off the expense of the assault, Europe's assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the trafficking, all of these things that we hear today. This is where it came from. Hundreds of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people and Africa as a continent had, and putting it into the hands of white people. And so this is why, as the chairman has said, the true class struggle, the true working class in the world is the African and colonized working class, not white people, because all white people, and you know this is true, you and I know this is true by just living our lives and seeing it. All white people sit on the pedestal on the backs of African and indigenous people. And, you know, the statistics are that even poor white people have an easier ability in a crisis to raise $3,000 in an emergency than middle-class African people do. Because we live in social wealth. We live with the wealth surrounding us.
Because they set up a system to keep white people and keep, other desirables in good position to keep the black folks in chains. And so those Negroes in chains just get enough money to take the chains off and then don't really care about anybody after that.
Welcome. Now, when they say all men are created equal, black people are still in chains. When they signed the constitutions, black people or black Americans were still counted as 3/5 of the human beings, not even half. When they wrote laws about liberty, black Americans or black people were being whipped for learning to read. That white man's word that we have listened, and a number of another white people we have listened on the videos that I played, saying that they never intended them, or they never intended black Americans to be anything. It is true. It is very true. It is not shocking because black people knows this. Even right now, the black people who are living right now, not our ancestors, they already knew this. You see, America was not broken from the start. America was built exactly the way it is. It was built on purpose. A system where whiteness equals dominance and blackness equals, let me say what? I use the word servitude. The plan wasn't to enslave the bodies of black people temporarily. No. The plan was to enslave the destiny of black people permanently. Now, here's the part they never understood. You can chain a man's body, but you can't chain the soul of a man. You can't chain the soul of a people who are chosen by the Most High. And as you know, black people are chosen by the Most High. The story of the Bible, the sacred story and everything is the story of black people. Now, the white man said that they began to grow in number and in power, and eventually they fought their way to some freedom. He is talking about black people. Black people began to grow in number and in power. Even after 400 years of brutality, black ancestors fought their way out. They did not wait for mercy. They did not wait for permission. They broke the gates of hell wide open. Now, let's say this. Every system was built to hold black people, but black people broke it with resilience. They lynched them, but they rose. They segregated them, but they rose. They imprisoned them, but they rose. They demanded their culture, but still black Americans are still dancing the whole world. The rhythm is still dancing Black Americans' rhythm. This is the power of a divine people. When a people are anointed by pain and purified by struggle, nothing can destroy them. And this white man and the others, they are just confessing a truth that terrifies the system. No matter what we did, they kept rising. No matter what they did, Black people kept rising. And if you listen to that first video, he said that then we used the welfare system, the criminal justice system. He is talking the reality of what happened. He is talking and representing the system. Now, this right here is where it gets real. What he said about creating the system to keep Black people down. Slavery did not end. It evolved. They just traded the chains for paperwork. They traded the auction block for prison pass. They traded the overseers with the police badge. The so-called welfare system wasn't built to uplift Black people. It was designed to break the Black family unity. It was designed to replace the father with the state and to make poverty look like choice instead of what? Instead of policy. The criminal justice in the system, that's not justice. That is a revenge wearing a suit. It's a revenge wearing a suit. From the war on drugs to they went to stop and frisk, went to mass incarceration. It's all been one long extension of slavery. But still Black people rose. Still Black people find ways to love themselves, to love one another. Still Black people find ways to build. They found ways to sing. They found ways to invent. They found ways to lead and create culture, because the spirit of Black people was never designed to die. And that's why Black people are the first human beings on the face of the earth. We are never intended to die due to oppression and these few things that are happening. Family, if you know your scriptures, you know what that means. Because this man is saying that, and now we are doing exactly what the Pharaoh did at the end, sending out a decree to do what? And alive them all. If you are reading your scripture, this is exactly what the Bible says. When Pharaoh saw that God's people were multiplying, he panicked. He said that these people are growing so strong. What do? Let's control their birth. Let's stop their rise. And that's when the decree went out to kill every male child. That's on the Bible. It's exactly what's happening. America has its own version of that decree. Mass incarceration, police shootings, economic strangling, medical negligence, psychological warfare. It is a slow genocide, not with swords, but with systems. And that is the white man, or that's the white people, whether he knew it or not, was comparing white America to Pharaoh. And it is like a warning that the same outcome is coming to America. And that's why a lot of professors, great thinkers are saying that America is facing judgment. America is the new Babylon. America is the new, having the leader, the Pharaoh and everything. Because you can't oppress God's people. You cannot oppress God's people forever and expect peace. Pharaoh refused to let God's people go, and his empire drowned in the sea. America refuses to let Black people breathe, and its empire is drowning in debt. It is going down. It's drowning in division. It's drowning in decay. And a lot of white people, white Americans are like, God damn it, what are these? They are crying out here. They're crying because of the economy. One of the things that we never knew we will see. White people crying because of expensive things. We never saw that coming. I never expect a white man crying because of economic somethings. Now, the bloodshed that is on its way is not on the hands of our fellow Black Americans, but it is on our hands. That man on the first video said that. That line, family, that line alone, that is judgment speaking through him. That is spiritual confession that even many pastors are too afraid to make. And for centuries, white America has spilled innocent blood and never repented. They turned the pain of Black people into profit. They turned the trauma of Black people into entertainment. They built a nation on genocide and still say, God bless America. But how can God bless a land that refuses to cleanse the blood on its soil? That white man was just sending a warning to his own people that divine justice is coming, not revenge, but justice, because every empire that built itself on slavery, every empire that built itself on arrogance and greed eventually meets the same end. Like Egypt, it fell, Rome, Babylon, name them all. And unless America repents, it is too will. It is on the wheel of failing. Now, there is a line that he's saying, we are the ones that are refusing to acknowledge that we do not value our black brothers and sisters as equal individuals or equal Americans as us white men. That's the raw truth here. They love our culture. They don't love the people. They love the rhythm. They don't love the struggle. They love the influence. They don't want the independence of black people. Even today, they still think equality means that we can join their table. So when the truth is, black people are building their own table. They are not asking to join their table. They are not asking for validation. Black people are not asking for inclusivity. They are asking just for freedom. They want the labor of black people, but the labor, the creativity, the genius, but not liberation. Because true liberation would mean the end of white control. And that's why they panic when they see black people educating themselves. That's why they panic when they see us, black people in Africa, or Africans trying to connect, trying to learn history of black Americans, and etc., etc. That's why they panic when they see African Americans going to Africa, trying to buy lands, building businesses, and returning to connecting, learning the spirituality of black people. Because this is what they have always feared, the Exodus movement. They have always feared the Exodus movement because the one time when the children that are scattered in the four corners of the earth return to its own land, it's going to be somehow hectic to them. It's going to be hectic to them. From the man, he said this, white men have been at the head since the foundation, but now they have had black president. They have done everything in their power to keep black people from really changing things, or black president from really changing things. And that is right. White fear is exposed through that line. White men have been at the head of the foundation, but too, when black president came, they've tried everything not to change things. And the idea is that power is shifting, that the head is becoming the tail, that the descendants of slaves are now the innovators, the influencers, the voice of the future. Obama was just the symbol, but the shift is deeper than politics. It is happening in the spirit. It is happening in the economy. It is happening in the culture. It is happening in the global consciousness. The system is trembling not because one man made it to the White House. No. The system is trembling because millions of black minds are waking up right now, worldwide, from Atlanta, Nairobi, Ghana, all the way, Lagos, Kingston. The frequency of black power is rising, and they can feel it, and that's why they're afraid. They know it. It is not just social change. It is spiritual realignment and rebalancing, So I'll say this. They didn't end slavery. What they do, they rebranded it. That is reality. When you see the 13th Amendment, if we all know about that, that thing, they tell black people ended slavery has a dangerous clause most people overlook. It says that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment of crime, shall exist. There is no slavery that will exist except when you have done a crime, so it will be like a punishment, So they didn't remove slavery, but they moved it into the prison system, and then they went ahead and look for mistakes for black people so that they can imprison, they can go to the slavery system back. The plantation became the penitentiary. The whip became the sentence, and the slave patrol became the police department. So when that white man said that we use the criminal justice system to contain them, he was right. He was telling the pure truth. That's exactly what America did. It took the chains off the wrist of black people and put them on their records. The war on drug wasn't about drugs. It was the war on black progress. Okay? Nixon admitted it. Reagan admitted it and expanded it. Yeah? Clinton sealed it. Because every time black people started rising economically, they found a way to re-enslave them. But what they can't understand is that every new system they build to stop black people is just strengthening them. Every system they get to do what? To enslave us or to make us go down. As black people, we always find ways to remain strong. Okay? Because black people are a forged people. We are the iron that refuses to melt. Now, I want you to listen to me here clearly. Not all chains are made of metal. Some are mental, okay? And some are spiritual. After physical slavery, they moved to psychological warfare. They rewrote history books to erase black people's greatness. They trained black minds to see whiteness as divine and blackness as inferior. They colonized our imagination as black people. They made black people believe that Africa is poor, America is the dream, and the success means assimilation. Okay? They made black people chase their approval when all along our power as black people was in our identity. Our identity is our power. Okay? But there's something happening now, and that's something they can never stop that. They can't stop it. Because black people worldwide are waking up from that dream. Black people worldwide are remembering who they are. Black people are learning that our history didn't start in chains. Black people, we are learning, and the youths, we are learning, and it started in kingship. Our history started in kingship. And that realization is shaking the systems, is shaking the foundations of white supremacy to its core. Because a people who know who they are, a people who know their identity cannot be controlled. You can't enslave someone who understands their divine origin. Okay? And that's why they fear black consciousness movement. They fear Exodus. That's why they sense up an African voices. That's why they mock anything that reminds black people of their power. They know exactly if black people ever unite under truth, it's over. Okay? But when you look around right now, my black families, the rise isn't just in America. The rise, it is global. We are having something we call global awakening. Okay? From Kenya to Ghana, Jamaica to Chicago, from Haiti to South Africa, there is a wave of awakening that is happening and that is spreading through the black world. Okay? And that white people or that white man who spoke, he's feeling it. You know, when he said that there is a shifting, he was admitting that the energy is reversing. Okay? For centuries, white men rolled through fear, but now they are the one fearing fear. They are the one feeling fear and fearing fear. You know, they are scared because the youths aren't falling for the lies anymore, because the internet exposed the hidden history they tried to bury, because African nations are rejecting Western control, because the diaspora is reconnecting to back home, you know. And I'm very happy because the same spirit that freed Israelites from Egypt is moving again. And this time, it is not just one nation being freed, it is global family. We are no longer begging for seats at their table, as I say always, but we are building our own empire. We are the carpenters, building our own chairs, building our own beds. We are building our own self. And just like the Pharaoh, they can see the writing on the wall, and their system are trembling, their economies are falling, their political unity is cracking, because you know what? You can't build peace on oppression forever. You can't. Spiritually, there's a science of power here. The spiritual science of power. Okay? Because power is not just politically. Power is spiritual. Okay? Every civilization rises or falls according to its spiritual foundation. And the reason Africa fell under colonization wasn't because we were weak. No, it's because we were divided and disconnected from our source. Okay? They attacked our spirituality, they called it witchcraft and replaced it with fear. But right now, the spiritual veil is lifting again, and black people across the world are rediscovering the truth. Okay? We are discovering that we are not cast, we are chosen. Okay? We are discovering that our melanin is not a mistake. It is a design, that our rhythm, our creativity, and endurance, these are divine signatures. So when our people realign spiritually, they become unstoppable physically, and that's what is happening right now. And that's what the white people, the white man we have seen their videos, are sensing. The first video, when he said they are rising, black people are rising, it wasn't just about politics. It is something that he could feel, something bigger, okay? A cosmic shift. The tables are turning. The spiritual order is it is reversing, okay? You see, America believes that it can escape the law of consequences. They think because they have nuclear weapons and technology that they can outsmart divine justice. But every empire that oppressed God's people thought the same thing. Okay? Pharaoh thought he could outsmart Moses. Rome thought it could silence Christ. Europe thought it could colonize Africa forever. Yet all of them met their reckoning. America's sin isn't just racism. American sin, it is arrogance. They call themselves one nation under God while refusing to obey the very principles of justice, equality, and repentance. Okay? The white man in that video and the white people in that video are warning their own people that we are the ones refusing to let God's people go. And that's not politics, that is prophecy. Because when you refuse to release what doesn't belong to you, whether it is stolen land, stolen wealth, or stolen people, you just invite distractions. And that destruction won't come from black revolt. That destruction will come from divine reversal. Okay? Because the blood they shed has a voice. And that voice cries for justice. Okay? The reason why they fear our unity as black people, they fear Africa versus African Americans, they fear, because you have seen them, they are trying to push some narrative. And that's why in my videos, I tend to talk about this every day, to connect black people, black Americans and African Americans and Africans and Caribbeans. You see, the media like pushing the Africa versus African Americans, Caribbeans versus continental, light-skinned versus dark-skinned, man versus woman. It is all a plan of the same playbook. Divide and rule. Because unity is their nightmare. And that's why every black leader who ever preached unity was targeted. Marcus Garvey deported, Malcolm X assassinated, MLK assassinated, Thomas Sankara assassinated, Patrice Lumumba assassinated, and even today they are looking for this Burkina Faso junta president or president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore. You see? So that is a pattern. I don't know if you are seeing that pattern. You don't fear, or they don't fear the guns of black people. No, they don't fear our guns. They fear our togetherness as black people. Because when black people move as one, the world shifts. When we buy black, the world shifts. When we build black, when we love black and travel to Africa and reclaim our identity, we shake the entire global economy. Okay? They can't survive without our energy. You know that. They can't survive without our labor, our culture, our creativity. And that's why this awakening terrifies them. That's what the white man meant when he said what? When he said that we have been at the head since foundation. He's not talking about leadership. He's talking about dependency. White depends on black submission. And now that we as black people, we are no longer submitting, their world order is crumbling. Family, I'll say this. Every time the system rejected black people, they created greater. They rejected blacks from universities. They built HBCUs, if you know that. They rejected blacks from their businesses. They built Black Wall Street. They rejected blacks from their churches. They created their own spiritual movements. Okay, every attempt to erase black people has only multiplied black people, just like in the Bible. When Pharaoh tried to kill the children of Israel, they only grew stronger. Okay? When America tries to destroy black progress, they multiply in wisdom, in resilience, in creativity. And that's why they say black excellence. But the truth is deeper. It is black divinity. Our existence itself is a proof of divine. Because what? Because no other people has endured what black people have and still radiate this much light. Up to there, I think we have discussed about that man exposing all the things, saying about the American greatest sin. It is ignorance. I have a lot to say, but you know what? I'll leave it there because I have another episode to bring here. We will talk more. And if you have something to tell me in the comment section. As you have noticed, there is Swahili version there. I know you love it. I know you love it. If you love it, tell me to continue giving you Swahili version of captions. In the next episode, peace out.